I loved it. I mean, I agree with everything you said, though. I need to watch it again, Jamie. But I agree. I think Inglourious Basterds is a better movie. I think it's how should I say this? It's a tighter movie. It's a more in control movie. It seems more focused. That's not to say that Django is a bad movie, not at all. It's just but all right, all right. If I can, I'm not going to give anything away, but I do want to. Halfway through the movie, I realized, wow, this isn't divided into title cards. There are no title cards whatsoever.
Right.
And that was something that really struck me. I was like, wow, okay, we don't have that here. I think it's a fascinating movie. I can't wait till it comes out so I can go see it again. But it's there's something, as with all Tarantino movies, with the exception maybe of Death Proof, there's something otherworldly about it. It's fascinating. Sorry, I just got out like 2 hours ago, so it's still like I haven't really had the time to process all of it. So it is worthwhile seeing, though.
Oh gosh, yeah. It's
definitely. My problems with the film, and I can't talk about the problems, and they are minor. I mean, very minor, but I can't talk about one of them because it's a huge spoiler, so I can't talk about that. But it's a fascinating movie, and his choices, and I also want to say it's maybe the most straightforward narrative he's ever made.
Yeah. Well, the movie is, for me, I liked it very much. And in terms of performances, the two highlights for me were definitely Christoph Waltz and DiCaprio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even though, and I'm going to repeat a lot of what I wrote about it, even though with DiCaprio, there's moments where he flares up in tremendous anger, and there's just something about his screaming voice that does not sound menacing, that does not scream menacing.
Right.
And that character needed to be very menacing. But other than that, like if you look at his choices as an actor that he makes in any given scene, he's very inventive in the movie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
His little choices he makes. I think the main flaw of the movie might be Django, and it's because everyone else around him is so verbose and colorful. And
right.
Django is like the man with no name in the Western. He's like the stronger silent type. I mean, he has dialogue obviously, but he doesn't come across as much of a vivid character as all the others. So I think he suffers for that throughout a lot of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Well,
also,
I would say that, but I think, don't you think he's also, Tarantino's trying to play it, have him be more like Charles Bronson in Once Upon a Time in the West?
Yeah, either way, it's the strong stoic type, and a character like that doesn't really fit into the Tarantino. It's going to pale in comparison to all the other people that are eating up the screen, scenery on the screen. The other thing is Tarantino is a filmmaker that prides himself on being surprising, and there are some surprises in this movie, but I think he might be suffering from having dealt with this revenge theme every movie for the past 10 years.
Well, he's obsessed with it. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he's obsessed with revenge. And it does go through your mind because you are thinking, wow, this is, on the plot wise, this is a lot like Kill Bill. It is the first thing you're thinking about. It has a lot of similarities to that. It's almost like he's now. In one sense, you could say he's copying himself at points in the movie. It's unavoidable, I think, with someone like him. I think the Christoph Waltz character is incredible. I mean, what does he just give Christoph Waltz, write him the best characters ever written? I mean, he really is giving him two of the greatest roles for one actor. I mean, it's amazing.
Sam Jackson's very funny.
He's evil. Sam Jackson, I think, is the most vile character in the movie. I mean,
yeah, but I mean, almost to the point of disbelief. Like you're kind of amazed by the behavior of that character, so it strikes as being funny.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks like Uncle Ben. So, but
what does he call it? A snowball? He calls it a snowball. I love that.
Yeah.
It's snowball.
But the movie looks great. The movie actually really shows the ugliness of slavery.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think so. I think that opening scene, the credit sequence alone, just where they have them, they're chained up and everything. I mean, I like it. I mean, I agree. I mean, there's things. How do I say this? I think the only thing I can really say is I think there are points in the movie I would have shaved off a couple minutes in certain sequences because I felt, not just like here and there to just tighten it. He is obsessed with revenge, though. I mean, this is obviously in the second half of his career, in the second decade, this is where he's really, placed all of his eggs in this basket of revenge, and he really loved this genre. But as much as you want to say this is his ultimate spaghetti western film, I think it may be his ultimate black exploitation film.
Yeah.
More so than western or southern or whatever he calls it. I mean, there's just little Easter eggs for all that whole era in here, and it's amazing. But I need to see it again. I feel like I need to at least watch it one or two more times before I can really talk about it because there's so much to take in, I think.
Well, and I also think that blaxploitation is almost the perfect forum for a movie about slavery because what is slavery other than exploitation? So I mean I think that fits the mold very well, his approach, and I think it's actually more truthful about the ugliness of racism than something like Lincoln.
There's a lot of truth in that, yeah.
Even though it's not as prestigious, as that movie, but. Shoot, and this is the first Tarantino film really where there isn't a strong female character, which is unusual. But there is interesting casting. Tom Wopat, Lee Horsley. I was trying to think, what is that TV show that Lee Horsley was on back in the '80s? And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, Matt Houston. Yeah, like the I mean, really, he
gave everyone work.
And he gave Don Johnson a good part, too. Yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question. Was the Walter Goggins part, was that supposed to be Kevin Costner's part?
Yes. And then it turned to Kurt Russell, and then it went to Walter Goggins.
Okay. I can see why Costner might not. I think might have felt, this is beneath me. I could see, and I think didn't he want to also do Hatfield and McCoy's with his buddy Kevin Reynolds? Well,
I think the part was probably more... it was stronger when it was offered to Costner. I mean, I think it was whittled down a bit.
Right.
After all these actors kept dropping out of it.
Right. It's a fascinating movie. It's definitely worthwhile seeing. Now I have to tell you, the screening I went to today had the Harvard professor Henry Louis Gates was there. And he obviously is a big fan of the movie because he had a lot of guests there for it. And I gotta tell you, I gotta give it to Tarantino. He does make you wince, I think, every time you hear the N-word. I have to say,
which is a lot.
Yeah, which is, I think it's more than 109 times.
I think it's more said in this movie more than any other movie ever made, actually.
Yeah, but it's well made. I think Robert Richardson. It's a beautiful. We've seen two genre movies that are maybe the most beautiful genre movies ever made. This and Skyfall, lensed by two of the greatest cinematographers. Yeah. It's amazing. It's so much to cherish and relish in this film. I look forward to seeing it again. I'll have a better idea once I see it again, really, what I liked and what I didn't. But it's up there for me. I don't think it's in the same league as Inglourious Basterds, but I can say that just right now. It doesn't have any scenes that pop quite as well as many of the scenes in Inglourious. There's the closest I think an elongated scene comes from doing that is the one with DiCaprio at the dinner table scene for me, but not quite. That's the problem with Tarantino, and this is what I brought up and what I wrote about it. In this stage of his career, he's only competing with himself,
and his last movie was Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah,
so,
it is a tough act. It is a tough act, and I think, and I was thinking about what you wrote about it while watching it, because that's, it's like, because this is always, in one sense, I'm glad they didn't break it into two parts. I think Tarantino was right not to do that, because I think it would have destroyed the rhythm of the film completely had you split this in two. It's not that kind of movie. It doesn't work like that. It's not made like Kill Bill. It can't be broken into two, because I don't know if people would come back necessarily for part two.
Yeah, I'm glad that he didn't go all Peter Jackson.
Yeah. Now, it's for everyone listening, this is definitely worthwhile checking out. You've got to see this in the theater. This is still somewhat at the top of their game. Jamie said it best. He's only competing with himself. If that's your competition, you're doing pretty good in this business. You're doing very well.
It's still one of the most bold, brash movies that you're going to see. I mean, it still crackles with life because it's balls out. I mean, it's out there.